I can't explain how I do it or how anybody else does it, but you're thinking cartoon and you're thinking visually how it can be done in cartoon, because it's nothing in live action could compare. I guess you got to use your instincts to guide you in a lot of stuff, whether it's right or wrong. I mean, you can't set any rules, because half of them don't work.
I think Friz Freleng gets taken for granted sometimes because he isn't as flamboyant, let's say, as some of the other directors, and he doesn't show off as much. But then you look at the body of his work and you look at some of the specific gems that he made over the years, and you realize just how many really wonderful cartoons he made, and you realize he takes a backseat to nobody.
Here! Friz would go for the belly laugh, and he goes for the humor.
He knows a gag, and he knows how to pull it off.
He could pull off a gag like nobody else could.
He's just, he was a master.
When I got out of high school, I was looking for a job, and there was an ad in the want ads for a boy, an office boy who could draw. I gathered up all the material I had around, and I went down to this place, and I got to the doorstep, and I figured, Jesus, I'm too amateurish for that. There must be professional artists there. So I turned around and went home. I never went in. I was scared to go in. And my mother said, "Did you get the job?" And I said, "Nah, somebody else got it." So I believe in fate, because 2 weeks later, the same ad appeared. And this time I gathered the stuff in, and I went down there, and they hired me. And who was working there? Walt Disney.
They were part of a group doing Newman's Laugh-O-Grams, which were kind of topical gags based on current Kansas City news at the time that they would run in movie theaters. They had to crank them out very fast. Friz was there with Hugh Harman and Rudolph Ising and Ub Iwerks and Walt Disney himself running the show.
I really didn't know Disney when I worked there, but in my contact with Hugh Harman, and he helped me quite a bit. In fact, I owe a lot to him.
And then Walt moved out to Hollywood, and he needed extra animators. He had Ub Iwerks, and he had Hugh and Rudy joined him out here to make the Alice comedies, which were for Margaret Winkler release.
Hugh said he was going to go to California, and I was to take Hugh's place as an animator. I said, I don't know anything about animation. So he said, well, here's what, he showed me what he was doing. And he says, get a book in the library called Lutz's Book of Animation, and read that and they'll tell you. So I was inking and painting, and I was doing the backgrounds and everything. I never held a brush before in my life. And the more I did, the more I learned.
But Walt ran short of animators, and he needed somebody, so he wrote a long letter to Friz saying, come out here, it's a great place to live and work, and you'll love it,
When Walt wrote to me and asked me to come out, that was very exciting for me. And of course, I knew Hugh Harman and Ub Iwerks had gone to California to work on this thing. And I think that was a deciding factor for me.
The day Friz arrived on the train from Kansas City, Walt personally went down to Union Station to pick him up.
But strangely enough, he and Walt didn't get along too well. Walt was a really tough taskmaster and made Friz redo things a lot.
Walt and I never got along. I was his whipping boy.
And also there was a lot of hazing of the poor guy because he was kind of short in stature. Like Hugh Harman used to tell me that he and Rudy used to grab him, walk down the sidewalk in front of the studio, and each would grab him by the arm and force him to walk really fast with them. And he hated it. He'd cussing and screaming at him, but they wouldn't stop doing it.
Ub Iwerks, yeah. I worked right alongside of him, but he was really my mentor. Whenever I had a problem, he'd reach over and solve it